Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down Florida State. The best way we know how to do that is bringing James Coleman from Fifth Quarter College Football, also his podcast as Sports Den Live. You get the full run from James, not just on the two platforms, but his daily tweets if you just lock in on Big Game James 36. Big Game James 36. So when you look at this football team, James, your thoughts about spring practice and what are you going to be looking at in particular that's going to make you feel better about this football team headed toward the fall?
I'm going to look for what the intensity in practices are like. So a lot of like Taggart's approach is a little bit different than everybody else's. I actually like it. You don't have to have overly arduous practices when you've done a really good job of getting yourself in condition and in the off season and in the weight room and things like that. But the up-tempo nature of Taggart's system and now bringing in Kendall Browse, it's a lot of learning. So I want to know how they balance learning and how the schedule is. So FSU, when I was there under Bobby Bowden, it was pretty simple. When you had a lot of time, it was 24 periods, about 2.5-hour practices, where you ABCD, you installed a lot of the special teams, and or if you weren't on special teams, O-line was working on fits, O-line was working on footwork, things like that. Wide receivers ran routes, pat and goes. And then you had your 24 periods where your first 10 were mixed between offensive, individual, and inside. Then you had another 5 to 7 that were team installs, and then the rest of it was 7-on-7, and then team 11-on-11, best on best. And the last couple periods were either red zone, goal line drill, things like that. So that's kind of how, and most teams still use that. It just depends on if they're going to be in full pads, they're going to be in shorts. There's a lot more regulations now than they had then. And even when I was there, they had already changed a lot of the stuff, more so for player safety. But I think with the way Kendall Browse runs his offense and that type of offense, it affects everybody. So I think you'll see shorter, more intense practices because you have to really go. And if you can't practice 2.5 hours with that tempo and not expect injury. So I think the practices will be short, sweet, to the point. Should be intense, should be fun. Hopefully there'll be some tweaks, maybe not as much dancing. Maybe more focus on what they have to do.
That makes sense, too. It's a burst sport. It's not a marathon sport. It's a full throttle, full go, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, something in that range. Bam, hit somebody, run as fast as you can, collision, bam, we're done for 30 seconds, and then back at it, depending on the tempo of the game. But regardless of the tempo, it's a burst sport. Quick twitch sport, so why run some marathon practice for 3 hours?
Right, and a lot of teams, even that don't run the up tempo, they still employed a similar strategy. Again, you don't really need to get a lot, and even in this, like, you're trying to work yourself to get some favor with the coaches, so that the first and the second team guys get all the reps, so that you're down on that third team and you're barely getting any reps.